The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly podcast coming to you on July 6, 2021. How you guys doing? Hope you guys had a wonderful, excuse me, that's a little loud there. Hope you guys had a wonderful holiday weekend, 4th of July, of course. And really, if you think about it, 4th of July this weekend was actually 2 days in a row. By the way, shout out to my nephew, Connor Seaweed, who turns 11 years old tomorrow, July 7th. Love you, kid. Anyway. Like I said, long weekend, sort of. Not for me, really, because I started work, same schedule. Although I got a couple days off this week. I'll be attending my first wrestling show in a long time. Quite a while. AEW Dynamite kicks off. It's back on the road after 15 months of being in Billy's place at Jacksonville for the last 15 months. Down here in Miami. So myself, my lovely wife, and then, of course, my co-host of the on the Take the Wrestling podcast, Mike, and then his wife, we're going to go and have a good time at AEW Dynamite tomorrow night, which next podcast, I'm sure we'll talk about it. Like I said, July 4th, in the rearview mirror. Talking about these holidays, the July 4th holidays, the patriotism and all that, I love seeing it. I do love seeing it. I don't like the extremes, and especially in this, especially in this polarized time we are as a society, how everything is so polarized, even the holidays, and I was telling my wife this the other day, I can't stand both. I hate to be it's not like a cop out here, but this is how I feel. You have the patriots who are flag-loving Americans who, and by the way, you have a right to be, of course, who are streamlined as think, America or nothing at all. If you don't wear a flag, you don't do this, you don't celebrate, and you praise America to the high hill without any pushback, you are un-American and you should be kicked out of this country, and that's that. Then you have the other flip side of that, of people who claim to hate this country so much, this and that there's nothing in this country, and this country is wrong, and all this and everything bad, and I can't stand it. Social media, this is the thing with social media now. You're exposed to that. Even when you try to avoid it, even when you click on block certain hashtags to avoid all that extra polarized stuff, you just can't avoid it. You really just can't avoid it. So, my wish in this country, my wish moving forward for unity. We're allowed to disagree, but come on. Anyway, that's my 4th of July rant for today, if you don't mind. Let's get started on this podcast, shall we? I want to start here. Some wrestling talk. So the WWE recently did their top 50 all-time tag team lists. Of course, the disclaimer here, of course, is this is in WWE history. And they actually did the list. Now, they did it in the form of a TV special, pretty much a 5-part special on Peacock, or if you listen to this podcast or if you had a W Network outside this country, WWE Network, 5-parter. And it was really interesting to see the list. Now, I'm not going to go delve heavily into this topic like I did, because we actually debated this we actually dedicated an entire segment. In fact, I would say we dedicated about 40 minutes of segment time towards this on Take 3 last week. Myself, Joe, and Mike giving our opinions on the list, whether we like it and whatnot. But I'm going to give my quick, a little more in-depth from my end, what stood out for me on this list. So top 50, we could debate, obviously, the top 5. I think the top 5, I have no problem with the top 5, honestly. I think we can debate whether or not who's number 1. But going through this list, obviously Bushwhackers at 50, 49, too cool. I mean, obviously, I think Bushwhackers, like, people don't disagree with me when I say this, though, but Bushwhackers for as much of a goofy ass tag teams they were back in the day, obviously, they were over. You know, I'm not gonna lie to you. They kind of feel a little low, but that's just me. Other things stood out here: Strike Force, number 46, Tito Santana, Rick Martel. They were really great, but they weren't a tag team long. Remember, they formed in August '87, and then by November '87, they were champs, and then they lost the tag team titles to Demolition at WrestleMania 4, and then they were gone for a year because I think Martel had gotten hurt. They got back together again for WrestleMania 5 a full year later, and they break up right on the spot there. Martel turns heel and all that. So I'm surprised they're on the list to begin with, but you know, for the time where they were at in that little 6-month bubble, they were great. They were awesome. Other standouts here for me, DIY number 38, of course, that's Tommaso Ciampa and Joe Gargano. I'm really love that they actually I love that they actually put some of the NXT guys in this too, because I know NXT's looked at the development brand, and you know I get that, but you know I see a lot more in that now. Other standouts here, Money Inc. at number 36. That feels a little low, but I don't know. Street Profits number 33. Some might say a little high, considering they've only just got called up to the main roster. Is either late 2019, I think it was, but they've been fantastic since then. So, going through the list here, British Bulldog, Owen Hart, that kind of feels a little low, actually. I ain't gonna lie to you. Going down the list here, number 24, the APA, of course, that's with Bradshaw and Ron Simmons. You know, I always thought they were much better than they thought. And as I look at the totality of tag teams in the last 40 years, I guess 24 it does make sense. There's so much great tag teams through the years, you know. Number 22, The Shield. 21, DX. Of course, it's HBK and Shawn Michaels. This mainly speaks on HBK's second run, DX's third run, really, in the Elite 2000 I did not watch. Honestly, they feel high here, honestly. I wasn't really a big DX guy. The only DX incarnation I loved, really, was the first one in 1997, when they first formed, with Chyna, with Rick Rude. I think once Shawn got hurt, because I wasn't a big fan of the DX run with X-Pac and the New Age Outlaws. No disrespect to those guys, but I wasn't a huge fan. Number 20, Undisputed Era, love it. I'm a big fan, of course. Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Kyle O'Reilly, and Bobby Fish. Love they give some love to the old guard as well, to the Soul Patrol, Rocky Johnson, Tony Atlas, number 19. Here's a shocker here. Well, first off, before we get to the shocker, number 17, Steiner Brothers. If this was a topic, talk about tag teams all time, they'd be top 5. But because it's solely a WWE show, their run in WWE was not really memorable. Like they won the titles twice, but it wasn't really memorable. They were there for 2 years at tops, and they were gone. But if this was a all-time tag teams, WCW, you name it, ECW, you name it, they'd be top 5. In fact, we did our tag team bracket. They were in the final 4 on Texas Wrestling, for the record. Shocking here, number 16, Rock and Sock Connection. How much match does these guys actually have, though? To me, this is more about the impact of both guys, The Rock and Mick Foley, Mankind, than anything else. The impact of how over they were, the era, after era, of course. But as a tag team, they shouldn't be above half these teams on the list, to be honest with you. That's the same way I feel about the Mega Powers at number 13. Now, you know me. I'm a diehard Hogan guy. Hogan and Savage, my 2 favorite wrestlers of all time. But let's call spade a spade. They had, 3 matches as Mega Powers? 2 of those matches were actual tag team matches, because the other third match, I would say, was the Survivor Series match. They had a tag match together at SummerSlam 88. They had the Survivor Series match. Then they had the match where they broke up on the main event in February 89. I mean, again, just like Rock and Sock, because of the impact of both these guys. They were never even they never even challenged for a tag team title shot. It was literally just Hulk. It was literally Hulk Hogan, the biggest name in the company, without the belt, and Macho Man Randy Savage, who was a champion at that point too. The number 1, number 2 guys in the company in the same team. That's the only reason they're this high on the list. And honestly, they really are too high. The Rockers were 14, should be a lot higher. I argue higher than the Mega Powers just because of they're an actual tag team. Number 11, Demolition. I can argue the top 10 team. Yeah, their run was short, but they were literally tippy top from the word go. They had this big push in 87. By 88, they're tag champions. They were, at one point, the longest reigning tag champs until New Day broke that, I think, a couple years ago. And they were really on top of the card. They were really on top of booking for a good three years. Not just in the mix. They were actually the top dog for 3 years. I could argue top 10. Okay, so here's the top 10 there. And here's the debate I'm going to have here more so than anything else about who I want to take out. So 10 through 1. Number 10, the British Bulldog. 9, Bros of Destruction. That's, of course, Undertaker and Kane. Number 8, New Age Outlaws. Number 7, Usos. 6, Legion of Doom. 5, Dudley Boys. 4, Edge and Christian. Hart Foundation, number 3. Hardy Boys, 2. And number 1 was the New Day. I would take our Bros of Destruction out and put Demolition in there, honestly. I would argue Demolition is a tier 1 team. Like, I would cut it off tier 1. So the top 8 right now on this list, honestly, I have no problem with whatsoever. We can debate the order of, between New Day, Edge of Christian, Hart Foundation, Dudley Boys, Legion of Doom, you name it. We can debate that all day. If you cut off the top 8 here, and maybe 9, I would switch out Demolition for Brothers of Destruction, and I put Demolition number 9, and cut it off at 9. That's tier 1 all-time WWE tag teams. For me personally, that's tier 1. That's the best way to rank these things in tiers. Who's a tier 1 team, a tier 2 team, tier 3, and so on, so on. Now, a lot of controversy, of course, on social media about New Day winning it. Here's the thing with New Day winning it. And granted, I did not watch most of the run. Remember, they got together in 2014. They're still together now, obviously. I was not watching the product until 2019. However, I did know who they were. Obviously, the noise they made, we were ready to hear to me also, someone was not watching the product at the time. Here's what I say about that. Okay, I can argue that, yeah, maybe 2 or 3 of these teams in the top 8 here could be number 1. Okay, I could argue Dudley Boys, which by the way won our tag team bracket a month ago. I could argue any of these teams, the Hardy Boys, I could argue that. Legion of Doom, you name it. But they are the most accomplished tag team here. They are still... The thing is, longevity matters to me. They're now 70 years into this run. They're still way over. They're still treated as a tippy-top team. Kofi Kingston ended up winning a title. Big E right now is being pushed to the top right now. And they're still over. Make the case against the New Day to not be number 1. That's the challenge. I don't think anybody could. And I think that's why they deserve to be number 1. Like, even if I can make an argument with somebody else to be number 1, make the argument against New Day number 1. Because I can make the argument against all these teams, really, in a tier 1 bracket. I can make it, and a lot of it has to do with longevity. Make an argument against Legion of Doom. Well, Legion of Doom, they, again, another short run. Granted, impactful, but a short run. Hart Foundation, to be honest, the argument against Hart Foundation being number 1 is this. They were tag champs in 1987. Okay? So they built it up a little bit, got to 87, lost titles to Strike Force later that year, and then they were kind of lying in the weeds for 2 years. They were obviously, hanging around, but they were not, they weren't doing anything major until 1990 when they got the belts back at SummerSlam 1990 against Demolition. And after that, they broke up less than a year later after WrestleMania 7 when they lost the Nasty Boys. Whereas the New Day has continued this consistency, together, relevancy, all that. Even when Kofi went solo, won a title 2 years ago against Daniel Bryan, they still remain intact. It was still over. That's the case for New Day. You can't make the case against New Day at all, and that's the problem. Like all the other teams, the other 7 teams in the top 8 here, I can make a case against easily too. Dudley Boys, their biggest run, the best run arguably was in ECW. The run was semi-short, in comparison. Edge and Christian, they were more solo guys. Even though they had a good run as attack guys, they're really known for the solo runs or anything else. Hardy Boys, obviously, maybe the only team I could consider. The Usos are great. They're at the mix. New Age Outlaws, short run also too early on. So, again, make the case against the New Day. No one can, and that's why the number one deserve it, honestly. So, anyway, it is actually 9 o'clock right now as I'm done recording this podcast. We've seen NBA Finals going to start in a couple minutes. So, real quick, Bucks Suns, just like we all planned it, just like we all said it was going to happen. The Bucks and the Suns in the NBA Finals before the year started. We all said that. We all predicted that. Yeah. I'm excited about this, and honestly, I've enjoyed this run. It's felt refreshing to have new teams in this mix. Granted, there's a lot of circumstances that worked out that way, with injuries, and I get all that. But it's good. It's fun. It's been a fun run here. Who I'm rooting for? I'm leaning Milwaukee into his rootability. I did say in this podcast that, I was rooting for the winner of the Heat Bucks series. I love Giannis and that team. And last couple of years ago, I actually wanted to break through, and they've finally gotten through now. But the hard part here is this: is that on the other side you have Chris Paul. Like, Phoenix is young, but this is about Chris Paul and the Phoenix Suns. This is probably going to be his only chance to win a championship, because I don't see any way Phoenix gets back to the finals next year. The West being as good as it is. The Nets going to be probably going to be great next year again. So this is the best window opportunity for Chris Paul to win a championship. This is his first time in the NBA Finals. Everything seems to be breaking for him. This guy, Chris Paul, as I stated on the last episode, like, this guy is arguably a top 5 point guard in the league, even without a ring. But he's also had the worst case of bad luck when it comes to these runs. So he finally gets the break. Lakers are banged up in the first round. Anthony Davis didn't play much of the series. They break through there. They get the Nuggets, who didn't have Jamal Murray. They break through there. The Clippers don't have Kawhi Leonard. They break through there. And now Giannis is actually hurt in the series too. Now he's going to be playing tonight. Just got the text an hour ago saying he's clear to play. So it does feel like the Suns do have Lady Luck riding with them. And Chris Paul especially has Lady Luck riding with them. He's 37 years old. Okay? This is honestly his best chance and his only chance to win a championship. So I should root for the Suns, honestly, because the Bucks might have more stabs at this, especially now when Giannis signed an extension before the year started. But I don't know. I like Milwaukee. I've been a kind of a little bit of a Bucks fan the last couple of years. I like Giannis, like what he stands for. He's a hard worker. He's getting better every year. Great teammate. So there's a lot of rootability here. There's a lot of things to root for the Bucks. A lot of things to root for the Suns. I'm probably going to get the edge of the Bucks. Giannis plays tonight. If he stays healthy, I like the Bucks in 7, honestly. I think Chris Middleton, obviously, is a big key to the series. He stays consistent. Drew Holiday, of course, he stays consistent as well, too. The bench is going to be a big deal, too. And obviously, the Suns bench is a little better than the Bucks bench. But, we'll see. If Giannis is healthy, the Bucks should win this series. If Giannis is not healthy, then that's a different story. I can see Suns in 6. But I'm gonna lean. I'm gonna go with my heart here. I'm gonna say Bucks in 7. No matter who wins this series, I'll be happy anyway, because, like I said, you root for Chris Paul to win a title, or you root for Giannis to win a title, and I'll be happy either way, honestly. So, Sha'Carri Richardson, Olympic star, or soon-to-be star. Well, first time in the Olympics, I'd say. Suspended. Was suspended last week for marijuana, and was initially going to be able to do the relay race, but as of today, she is now suspended for doing that as well, too. A lot of debate about, was it fair for her to be suspended for this because it's not a performance-enhancing drug, it's just marijuana. Now, the rule is stupid, for the record. I think everybody with common sense believes this rule is stupid. In fact, I'm so confident in that now that I think with the controversy with this happening with her not being able to make the Olympics and her not being able to do the relay now as a result, I think the Olympic Committee will change that rule. If they're smart enough, they'll change that rule for the next cycle. Unfortunately, that is the rule. Now, we heard a story about, I guess she lost her mom recently, and smoked marijuana as a way to, to take, to help with her anxiety, help with just with her reactions to everything else. And I'm sensitive to that. But at the same time, if you're still going to the Olympics and the rules are the rules, and the rules are stated that you can't smoke marijuana, even as though the rule is god awful fucking stupid, which you all agree with, it's the rule. I hate to be a hard ass and but I'm also a father. I'm the same with my kids. If I tell them the rule's a rule, regardless of how stupid it sounds, it's still the rule. You follow the rule. I hate it because she's so talented, and I knew she was done. I knew she would done big. I know she would done big things in Tokyo. It's a dumb rule. I hate it. But again, the rule's a rule. I mean, I don't want to be that guy, but and now she can't run the relay. We thought maybe she would run the relay, but she didn't make. I guess from what I'm reading here, I don't think they invited her to relay either. It sucks. But rules rule. But hopefully she'll be able to run again in 4 years. But hopefully she'll make. I think she's too talented. She'll not make it. So, all right, controversy at ESPN. This New York Times article that came out Sunday was so fascinating. This story sort of broke last year during the NBA bubble, during the height of the pandemic last year, between Rachel Nichols and Maria Taylor. Now, Rachel Nichols is the host of The Jump on ESPN. She's done some NBA Countdown as well too. Maria Taylor is the current host of NBA Countdown. So last year, supposedly, there was a leaked call, a leaked conversation between Richard Nichols and I think LeBron James's sidekick, whatever his name is. I forgot his name, Adam something. And basically what happened was this, that Richard Nichols was told that Maria Taylor would be doing the coverage for the NBA Countdown during the NBA Finals last year, which made Richard Nichols very upset. And she was caught on video saying the following. Give me 1 second, pull this up real quick my phone. This is what she said. Quote, "I wish Maria Taylor all the success in the world. She covers football. She covers basketball. If you need to give her more things to do because you are feeling pressure about your crappy long-time record in diversity, which, by the way, I know personally from the female side of it, go for it. Just find it somewhere else. You're not going to find it from me or taking my thing away." Now, a lot of what Rachel said there is true. ESPN has a really shitty history when it comes to diversity, and they're only now making up for it. One of my big issues with ESPN through the years, and I've spoken on this topic a lot on this podcast, with ESPN, for example, with the NFL, they are never proactive. They're always reactive. They always do things after the fact when there's pressure compounded on anything. Whether it be domestic violence, diversity, meanings of race, you name it. They're never proactive. They're reactive after the fact. So to me, and of course, Richard Nichols is getting a lot of blowback on this because this is a racial. Obviously, the racial thing is obvious because Maria Taylor is black and Richard Nichols is white, and now Richard Nichols, who's been, many in the conservative side calls her, woke because she's always been, in front of the line of the Black Lives Matter movement and all this stuff, and and now she's kind of getting it headed to her in a way where she supports the, diversity, but she doesn't want her job to be taken away from her. I don't think Rachel Nichols is a racist, for the record. In fact, I would put... I want not say that because people say one thing and they do something differently. I'm pretty confident Richard Nichols is not a racist. I think Richard Nichols' whole thing here, in my opinion, is her just covering her own real estate. In fact, she even stated, too, in that video that she was contractually... It was in her contract that she was supposed to do NBA Countdown. So this argument made there that Rich Nichols was looking at it solely from protecting her own job, which I get. Whether or not you're white or black, put yourself in her shoes. What if someone, white or black, and you know you earned that job, and it's in your contract, and this and that, and now the company says, it would take away from you now, just because. Now, the mistake she made, in my opinion, is that assuming that ESPN was doing this because of race. But to be honest with you, she kind of has a right and a point to assume so, because ESPN has always reacted in that way. Doing things in a reactionary manner. That because of the George Floyd thing. Remember, this is after George Floyd. And when everything was at a crescendo last year at this point. So everybody was making changes. Everybody was trying to look good whether for PR purposes or not, whether or not it was authentic or not. And ESPN's included in that crap. So Rachel Nichols, while she said the thing you probably shouldn't say out loud, she's kind of not wrong either. ESPN has a history of this shit. So it's not, she said the bad thing out loud, the thing you shouldn't say out loud, but honestly, it's something that I probably would have crossed all our minds anyway, because ESPN has a history of this crap. And other companies that record. Reacting after the fact. For the record, Maria Taylor is fantastic. In fact, in my opinion, Maria Taylor is better at that job, to be doing pregame shows, than, in my opinion, Rachel Nichols is. Rachel Nichols was very talented. She's great on the jump. But Maria Taylor is a superstar. The other monkey wrench this whole thing, too, is that Maria Taylor is also due for a new contract. Her current contract is expiring literally, I think, this week or next week. Like within the next couple days, actually. And she supposedly turned down, it was leaked out last week in the media, that she supposedly turned down a pretty big offer. I think it was, they'd offered her, I think, $7 million a year, and she turned it down. Basically saying she wanted Stephen A. Smith money. And, of course, Stephen A. Smith is by far, leaps and bounds, the highest paid employee there, talent there, rather, making $10 million a year, I believe, and up more. Now we can debate whether or not Maria Taylor is worth that kind of money, and whether or not she actually, her workload or what she does attracts that kind of money. I don't know. You tell me. I have my own opinions. You guys figure that out. And of course, this whole thing comes out now as a result after the week after the contract demands or whatever was turned down. It's a fascinating situation. Gene Pitaro is in his head, ESPN head of talent, president rather. Something's got to give. What do you do if you're Jimmy Pitaro? What do you do? Do you let go of Rachel Nichols? Which, by the way, she didn't say anything really out of pocket that forced her to be fired. Do you retain Maria Taylor? I don't know. It's a tough decision for him to have. He may lose his own job as a result. But this also is, in my opinion, a consequence of the culture in ESPN. This is also a consequence of them not doing their job, not tightening the ship, not being transparent. Supposedly you tell Rich Nichols one thing, then you act and say Maria Taylor's going to be doing this. Not saying one or the other is wrong, but you're in charge here. ESPN, you're in charge. If you want Maria Taylor to be the head, the lead for NBA Countdown, then go right ahead. But then you can't tell Rich Nichols the same thing. Say, "Oh, we promise you that, no problem," and then especially when she says she's under a contract too. On top of that makes it look bad. While Rich Nichols gets some blame here, and she does some blame here, of course. I don't think this is racial. I don't think it's her being anti-black, whatever it be. But this is, to me, more than anything else, is mismanagement by a company that has a history of not being proactive and instead wants to be reactive. Then you have Richard Nichols doing an apology yesterday on the jump. And then the two guys, Richard Jefferson and Credit Perkins, after her, who had nothing to do with the situation for the record, but of course they're colleagues and friends, saying things. It's very uncomfortable watching that. It really was. Then today they supposedly suspended the show today, which made no sense in my opinion. I think that added more smoke to the fire. ESPN just continues to get this shit wrong every time. You know? Making it worse. Making the optics worse. So we'll see how this story plays out throughout the finals and whatnot. So, all right. A couple things before I get out of here. Let me see what I got here. So, lately I've been kind of curious about this idea of working from home. Yeah, I have family members who work from home, friends work from home, all that. But it's been mostly sporadic. And then when the pandemic happened, of course, a lot of jobs that were once jobs you done in the office and ended up being done at home. And some of those jobs ended up being permanently stayed at home. And working from home for me has always been something I've never actually understood because I've never actually done it before. All my jobs have been on location. Like my job today, I do it on location. I got to be in person and do that job, literally, physically. You know? But I'm fascinated because I was telling my wife the other day, he's like, what kind of jobs can he actually get working from home? Because it seems like there's many more people doing this now. Friends of mine and their wives or whatever, or telling me that, some of the husbands that tell me, my husband or my wife works from home now. I'm like, really? More people? And it's like, it's more people doing this. And I sound so out of place and silly and dated on this, talking about this, but I'm really curious, what kind of jobs, okay, obviously admin jobs and accounting jobs, I can see the obvious ones, but if there's more people working from home now today, what kind of jobs are available out there that you could work from home? So I was telling my wife that the other day, and I was asking her, would you actually work from home one day? She goes, yeah, I work from home. And then he got to the discussion of, what could you do? And that's the thing I'm really confused about. What kind of jobs can you actually do from home? That makes sense. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm going to do that, but I'm just curious. What kind of things can you do from home? And I know people make working from home look easy, but from what I've been told, it's not as easy as you think because there's a lot of distractions around you, and if your kids are home, especially too, you have to kind of have to do a balancing act and whatnot. I know my sister works from home and her husband as well too, but they've been doing it for a long time though. They've mastered it at this point. I'm just really curious. What kind of jobs can you do from your home that makes you stay home, makes you stay in the house, and just do your job and get paid and not have to worry about gas, none of that. That's really, really curious. I really am. All right, finally, before I go, I have one big goal this year for this podcast. And this podcast is actually this 10-year anniversary. We're going to do I haven't decided what I'm doing yet with this because August will be technically the exact month. August 2011, we started this podcast. But I have one major goal for this year for my podcast, and this sounds really silly. And if you follow me on Twitter, you probably saw what I posted. I posted this a couple days ago, or maybe a week ago. My number one goal for this podcast for this year is to get my mother, as a guest. I've had my dad on a few times. I've had some of my siblings, obviously, on it, cousins. My wife's been on it, obviously, many times. Even my young son, my oldest son. Actually, both my kids have been on the show, really, but most of my oldest son has been on this podcast before. But I've never had my mom on the show. And I know my mom has so many stories to share growing up as an adult, perspectives. My mom was one of my best friends, and we have conversations for days. Every time we're on the phone, our conversations go at least an hour, easily. Boom. That's why I make sure if she calls or I call her, I make sure I have enough time set aside to talk to her because I know once I'm on the phone with my mother, we're just on 1 hour. Boom, gone, talking and discussion, and we're into the same things, into politics, and we're into like life and spirituality and MJ and all that stuff that she got me into as a kid. But I told her, all these conversations we have all the time, these make the podcast topics. Not all the personal stuff necessarily, but the stuff that are a little more superficial. So initially when I asked her to come to the podcast, I think last year or the year before that, she was like flat out, no, never. Not come to the podcast. No, people are too nosy and I don't people know my business and all. And I get that. But I was starting to soften her up a little bit, little by little. And I even told her, if you want final say on content, like, you can do that. So she's softening. She hasn't said yes yet, but she's starting to consider it now. She'll be a fantastic guest, though, really. She's met a lot of celebrities through the years, and she has a very, very powerful story, her life and whatnot. She'll be a fantastic guest on this podcast. So I'm working on that. I'm still softening her up. I'm hoping by the end of this year, that will be my surprise, that have her on as a guest and just shoot the shit, of course, like we always do every day, on the phone. So, Mom, if you listen to this, come on the show. Don't be scared. Anyway, that'll do it today for today's podcast on July 6, 2021. I'm on Twitter at EGChristian7, Earnestly Podcast at all podcast catchers. Of course, earnestly.net, the website, Earnestly Media, all social media platforms, YouTube especially. Check out the YouTube guys, especially if you have YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube page, Earnestly Media. You have all the clips, even the archives. A lot of the episodes on the feed here, for example, have started to disappear. Like, I think the longest show on this feed right now currently is from November. So you want to see old shows from October and beyond that, from last year and beyond. They are on YouTube, so you can always get the archives there and clips of the show. I even got important clips of the show as well as my wrestling podcast. I take the wrestling podcast and all that, and the Unfiltered podcast as well too. So until the next podcast, we'll talk soon. Thanks for listening, of course, and we will. I think when I come back on the next show, we'll talk about my fun time I had with at AEW Dynamite. So love you guys. Take care. See ya.